amazing transformation. Discover how two Chinese women found hope with an unexpected gunslinger. The faded green awning flapped in the warm Texas breeze as May stared at the tall stacks of bills littering the counter. Her heart raced, eyes darting nervously between the unopened envelopes and the half-empty dining room. How had it come to this? The scent of garlic and ginger filled the air, but even the beloved family recipes seemed to carry no weight against the mounting debts. It was as if the walls themselves were closing in. "Will we lose it all?" whispered the voice in her mind, one that echoed memories of laughter shared over steaming bowls in happier times. Would their father, who had invested every ounce of hope into this establishment, be disappointed if he could see them now? May hesitated, feeling crushed under the weight of expectations. "May." Leon's voice broke the silence, trembling with concern. May turned her head to see her younger sister, barely into adulthood, yet already weighed down by the harshness of responsibility. Leon had just graduated, filled with dreams and ideas that painted a vibrant future. But for every day they struggled to keep the lights on at Chen's kitchen, those dreams felt more and more like distant stars. "We have to do something, or it'll slip away," Leon added, her voice cracking under the pressure. May felt a pang of fear surge. Was it fair to pull her sister into this fight? Each moment stretched painfully, reminding them of all they had sacrificed. And then it happened, the moment that would inexplicably change everything. The door swung open, revealing Jack. His rugged exterior and shoulder-length hair draped manfully, but it was his eyes that caught May off guard, a glimpse of understanding. He watched as the delivery driver abruptly left with a frustrated shake of his head, leaving them without essentials. "I can't deliver to a place that can't pay its bills," he had scoffed. Jack stepped forward, concern etched across his face. "Hey, what's going on?" His unexpected care broke through the fog of despair swirling around the sisters. Before they knew it, Jack had offered his support, suggesting ideas laced with surprise. His admiration for their determination rekindled an unexpected spark within Leon. They began brainstorming. What if they infused local flavors into their menu? May found herself torn. The prospect excited her, but fear gnawed at her heart. Could they revitalize without losing their essence? Was it blasphemy to think of altering those cherished family recipes? Leon's shy smile ignited a flicker of hope that May couldn't squelch. It was a chance not just to survive, but to flourish. But looming over them was the threat of the well-known food critic, a tyrant who savored demeaning foreign cultures. Anxiety tightened around May's throat, every breath reminding her of how other establishments had faltered. Could Leon handle the scrutiny? As the competition approached, each simmering dish turned into an embodiment of dreams long suppressed. It worried May to see her sister inching closer to the edge of confident ambition, but she felt a mix of pride and dread brewing within, her mind abused by racing thoughts and doubts. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days passed, each filled with sharp turns of anticipation and dread. The pressure mounted as Leon prepared for her first competition, her hands trembling with anxiety while May fought internally with her desire to shield her sister from prejudice. The weight of underestimations pressed dangerously close, inching them towards a cliff of disillusionment. As they plated the dish for the judge on that fateful day, an unshakable fear gripped them both. Leon's breath hitched, the moment ripe with the weight of their history. In that fraction of seconds between presenting their creation and the harsh glare of scrutiny, Leon wondered silently if their love for their heritage could transcend the bitter sting of bias. The answer remained unsettlingly elusive, the chasm between dreams and reality yawning wide in their path. May stood rigid in the kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the counter as she watched Leon perfect the garnishing on their dish. Each flick of her sister's wrist seemed to echo the ticking clock, time drawing nearer to their moment of truth. The competition was more than just a test of culinary skill. It was a crucible for their fragile spirits. May's heart raced as she wrestled with the implications of failure, every nerve screaming at her to intervene and protect Leon from the inevitable scrutiny of the critic. "Are you sure about this?" May finally asked, her voice laced with worry. Leon paused, glancing up with a bright-eyed determination that made May's chest tighten with both pride and fear. "This is our chance, May," she replied, her voice steady. "If we don't try, we'll never know what we're capable of." The resolve in her sister's eyes was as fierce as the Texas sun at midday. In that moment, May recognized not just Leon's fervor, but also her own unacknowledged yearning to break free from the shadows of fear that had governed her decisions for too long. With a deep breath, May stepped into the role of a mentor, her mind racing as she considered how they could blend their heritage with the vibrant culinary landscape around them. She started imagining their dish transformed, infused with unexpected ingredients that still honored the family traditions they cherished. They could weave together the warmth of their past with the fresh vibrancy of local flavors, a fusion that spoke of resilience and adaptation. As Leon worked on the dish, May began contemplating their story, their late father's hopes, each recipe passed down, and now, the fear of being erased in a world so quick to judge. Suddenly, May's insecurities battled with an emerging confidence. This dish was more than food. It was a symbol of their survival and connection to their origins. The doors of the venue swung wide as competitors filed in, each carrying a mixture of confidence and apprehension tangible in the air. May felt the weight of Leon's dreams alongside her own burdens, the expectations of their father, the pressure from creditors, and the looming presence of the critic notorious for his sharp tongue and ruthless assessments. She squeezed her sister's shoulder, urging her silently to draw strength from what they had built together. With the clock ticking down, they plated their dish, an intricate array of colors and textures that shone under the bright lights. May's anxiety transformed into purpose, her hands steady as they placed their creation in front of the judge, a man whose reputation for harsh critiques preceded his presence. "Here goes nothing," Leon murmured, her nerves palpable, yet her spirit unwavering. The first bite was met with silence, the tension palpable as the critic's sharp gaze examined the dish. May's heart drummed unnervingly in her chest, each second stretched painfully as they awaited his judgment. The crow's feet around the critic's eyes crinkled as he chewed, the seconds feeling like hours. Everyone around them leaned forward in nervous anticipation. Even the other competitors shared fleeting glances of concern. Then the critic's face changed. It morphed from neutrality to intrigue, then surprise. "This is unexpected," he finally stated, and the words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Would they taste victory or defeat in that moment? May's breath caught, her mind racing with the significance of this unexpected response. Had their gamble paid off? Or were they about to face another dagger of disappointment from someone who was never meant to understand them? Little did they know that as judgment loomed, so too did an opportunity for deeper self-discovery, one that would inevitably lead to a reckoning with their past, their identities, and how far they were willing to go to carve out their future. But the most pressing question lingered in May's mind. Could they really stand against the criticism of a world that bathed in stereotypes and bias? In that charged atmosphere, the moment of truth was about to unfold, leaving them on the precipice of revelation and anxiety. Time slowed as the critic's fork hovered, the weight of his gaze threatening to crush May under its scrutiny. It was in this moment of breathless anticipation that she realized just how intertwined her existence was with Leon's aspirations. The kitchen and the competition became a backdrop for her deeper struggle, but as the critic finally spoke, a mix of uncertainty and triumph surged within her. Unexpected? Were those words a compliment or a veiled insult, an omen of praise or a warning? The mere ambiguity wrapped around her like a shroud, amplifying her desire to gain insight into the critic's perspective. to dismantle the judgment looming just beyond the veil of uncertainty. Her heart raced again, but this time it was not just fear. It was a newfound determination to understand the depths of culinary artistry and the biases that often undermined it. Leon watched their judge intently, likely weighing the same thoughts flitting through May's mind. For the first time, it struck May that applause and critique were not opposites. They danced in tandem, each one revealing layers of their identities they had yet to explore. If they could nail this moment, perhaps they could reclaim their narrative from the ashes of doubt and reclaim their father's legacy in a world that often overlooked their history. As the critic took another bite, May let instinct guide her thoughts. What he doesn't know about us, she mused silently, staring straight into the eyes of the man tasting their journey. He had no idea about the hours spent in their small kitchen crafting flavors from dull to vibrant. He hadn't lived the moments in which the stress of debts loomed like dark clouds, threatening to drown out flickers of hope akin to their father's recipes infused with love, a fusion of tradition and innovation. The emotional tide within her surged. She was prepared for this, challenging past perceptions, reclaiming their narrative. Suddenly, May felt a surge of clarity. Maybe they weren't just creating a dish, they were forging a path for others to see the beauty in their heritage woven with modern sensibilities. It was a bold venture, one that required her to cast aside her own hesitations. All those years spent in the shadows were leading to this moment. "May I ask?" The critic finally broke his silence, drawing May back to the present. What inspired this combination of flavors? A simple question with profound weight, igniting May's desire to articulate not just their dish, but their essence. "It's a reflection of who we are," May replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "We wanted to honor our roots, but we believe that growth means also embracing new experiences." The words flowed with newfound confidence, firm and unyielding against the waves of anxiety. Jeff, the critic, nodded as he absorbed her response. His acknowledgement was subtle, yet it felt monumental. In that moment, the barrier between him and the sisters began to dissolve. For the first time, she didn't want to hide but to unveil, to expose the culinary story they were telling through their plates. The tension morphed, pulling away like an old bandage. They weren't desperate competitors anymore. They were passionate storytellers. May stole a glance at Leon, whose eyes sparkled with a mixture of confusion and pride. It was as if the weight of unseen expectations was starting to lift from her sister's shoulders. But then, a twist of the critic's expression caught May off guard. "You speak of roots, yet this dish embodies boldness. Are you prepared for the implications of that?" A new layer of uncertainty formed like a dark cloud threatening their fragile achievements. The apparent complexity of success roused a new question within May. What would it truly mean to adapt, to stand out, and simultaneously honor what they had come from? Was she ready to pursue this identity fiercely? As her thoughts spiraled into a blend of resolve and doubt, a sudden insight sparked in her mind. It was time to confront her own fears head-on, to face not just the criticism, but to embrace the interpretations of her identity, however complex. Moments later, when the critic's verdict fell, it wasn't only about victory or defeat anymore. It was about the personal definitions of courage they had just begun to carve. They'd taken a step onto uncharted territory, each bearing the weight of their passion. With her heart pulsing in synchronization with the ticking clock of uncertainty, May felt emboldened. Yet, with each echo of the critic's ponderous silence, a chilling reminder tinged her thoughts. Could May truly uphold the weight of expectation? The road ahead was treacherous, but it also shimmered with possibility. As they awaited the critic's judgment, a new question loomed sharp and vibrant in her mind. Were they ready to face not just the world's opinions, but the essence of themselves? The answer felt tethered to the moment of truth just ahead. The critic's fork finally retracted, and time snapped back into motion, leaving May breathless as he scribbled notes in a small pad. She could see his pen moving methodically, like a sword punctuating the silence. Leon shifted next to her, a nervous energy crackling between them, filled with unspoken words. The weight of their father's legacy tugged at May, They were on the precipice of redefining it. But at what cost? What if he doesn't like it? Leon whispered, her eyes darting towards the critic. There was an edge of vulnerability in her voice that May recognized all too well, a reflection of her own fear that threatened to swallow them both. He doesn't have to like us, May said, her voice firmer than she felt. But he's tasting our truth. A mantra of sorts, one that was meant to anchor her as much as comfort her sister. With every passing moment, she was painfully aware that their journey had transcended the kitchen or the competition. It had morphed into a battleground for their identity. The critic closed the pad and looked up. I appreciate the boldness you've brought to this dish, but let's talk about the long-term implications. Are you two ready to embrace this duality in your work? His tone held no judgment, only inquiry. May's heart raced anew. The question didn't just sit on the surface, it burrowed deep, challenging her to articulate her resolve. We are committed to finding that balance, she replied. We want to celebrate our heritage while innovating. Each word felt like a stepping stone, releasing the venom of self-doubt that had clung to her for so long. The critic nodded, seemingly satisfied. Then you must understand, he continued, that such a journey isn't merely culinary. It requires courage, a willingness to explore the unknown ingredients of your own experiences. His gaze intensified, piercing May's defenses. In that moment, May felt exposed. Was she in fact ready to confront the unknown? Did she possess the resilience to push through barriers, to experiment with not just food, but with her own identity and the expectations she held? Are you prepared to face resistance? He challenged, encapsulating May's internal struggles within those few words. The question hovered, demanding an answer she found was both exhilarating and terrifying. Each time we cook, we face it. Leon's voice, although quiet, was firm. Growing up, we never fit into just one mold. We survived under scrutiny and expectations that demanded we conform. This, she gestured toward the plate, is our way of breaking free. May felt a surge of admiration for her sister's courage. Leon's words were a tether connecting their shared past with the uncertainty of tomorrow. They no longer just had a dish to evaluate. They had a shifting narrative that was bursting to emerge into the light. Yet, despite her sister's bravery, May's stomach knotted. The fear of judgment still loomed, a shadow that whispered of failure with every passing moment. What if their boldness was met with scorn instead of recognition? Was she indeed equipped to carve a space in a culinary world that had little patience for complex narratives? With a steadying breath, May made a choice. Yes, we welcome all of it. The challenges, the triumphs, the failures. We are ready to transform. The critic's expression softened, a faint smile creasing his lips. It was a flicker of acknowledgement that spoke volumes. Very well then. Let's see how far you can take this. As he rose to leave, the air thickened with unspoken realities. May felt a tremor of both fear and anticipation coursing through her veins. This conversation had opened a door, inviting her to step through not just as a chef, but as a storyteller. It signaled a transformation, both personal and professional, that demanded she reveal who she truly was beneath the layers of expectation. A flicker of resolve lit in her chest, but it was immediately followed by an unsettling question. What did it mean to transform when the very essence of herself was being scrutinized by the world? The critic turned to her one last time, his eyes searching hers. Remember, May, true discovery lies beyond your comfort zone. Be ready for what comes next. The weight of his words settled uneasily in her mind as he walked away. The journey was just beginning, and uncertainty reigned supreme. But beneath the uncertainty, May felt a burgeoning spark, an understanding that transformation wasn't about erasing parts of herself, but integrating them. Standing beside Leon, she understood their next chapter would demand not only culinary prowess but fierce introspection. Instead of merely cooking, they would have to conjure their identities into a cuisine that resonated with authentic stories and vulnerabilities. As the warmth of determination began to wrap around her tightly, a new question fluttered to life in her mind. What sacrifices would they have to make to embrace their evolution fully? The answer felt tangled within the fabric of their culinary adventure, and uncertainty loomed brilliantly ahead. The kitchen felt heavier now, as if the weight of possibility and fear had seeped into the very walls. May and Leon stood quietly, the remnants of their conversation with the critic swirling like smoke around them. They knew they had to take the next step, but the path remained foggy, riddled with the unknown. With a firm exhale, May turned to Leon. "We need to push ourselves further, to think beyond our comfort." The strength in her voice surprised even her. Leon nodded, her fingers nervously tapping on the countertop, revealing her own anxiety. May could see the uncertainty etched across her sister's face, the same doubt that weighed on her own heart. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the windows, a plan began to form in May's mind. "Let's incorporate flavors that haven't traditionally been used together. Give our dishes a different narrative." Leon's eyes sparkled to life, and for a moment the sisters found common ground amid their fears. "What about the spices from that old recipe of Dad's, the one with the chili and ginger?" "Yes, we can marry those with something unexpected, like citrus." The idea ignited within them, but as visions of what could be came alive, May felt a gnawing doubt. Every culinary union she envisioned bore the weight of expectations, not just from the outside world, but from within. They were not just blending flavors but identities, heritage, and ambition. Was their instinct to juggle the old and the new, the familiar and the foreign, wise? May positioned herself in front of the stove, gathering the ingredients as Leon followed closely behind, her excitement morphing into quiet enthusiasm. They readied themselves to experiment, but the stakes felt higher than ever. With each new combination, May sensed the sharpness of failure hovering nearby. What if their attempts were met with derision? As the chilies sizzled, releasing a bold aroma, May navigated her internal turmoil. With every chop of the knife, she could hear the critic's words repeating in her mind, a cadence rhythmically challenging her. She had to confront more than just culinary limits. She needed to dismantle her own insecurities. Leon, noticing her sister's silence, caught May's eye. "Hey, I trust you. We're in this together, right?" The strength in her sister's gaze drew May closer, offering a moment of grounding. "Of course," May replied, though her voice was tinged with uncertainty. "But this isn't just about cooking any longer. It feels bigger than that." "Then let's capture it," Leon replied, pouring in a splash of citrus juice that danced through the air. "Let's find the authenticity we buried." Fired with resolve, they began to create a dish that highlighted both the warmth of their heritage and the fire of their ambition. As May and Leon crafted their creation, they engaged in a dialogue not just with each other, but with their past and future. Each action became deliberate, each choice resonating with meaning far beyond taste. Yet, as the dish began to take shape, the specter of the critic loomed large in their minds. What if their journey, their blending of flavors, didn't resonate? The thrill of discovery was tinged with the anxiety of exposure. May's confidence wavered, her mind racing with questions. Could her vision translate beyond the kitchen? Could they authentically represent themselves in a world that often demanded simplification? In the concluding moments of their preparation, the kitchen came alive with the vibrant colors and extravagant scents of their dish. May approached the plate with tentative hope, but also with a sharp awareness of the risk at hand. "Are we ready to serve this to the world?" Leon nodded, determination etching her features. "Yes, we are. And if they don't understand it, we'll keep pushing." With steely resolve, May stepped back to admire their creation, a testament not only to their culinary skills but their evolving identities. But as she stood there, a gnawing thought arose. What would happen if their next dish did not land as they anticipated? Would their newfound confidence crumble under the weight of criticism? As these doubts danced in her mind, another flicker of realization ignited. Shaping their story required facing their fears head-on. The time had come to confront this once and for all. As May and Leon stood over their creation, the weight of the impending judgment pressed down like a thick fog. Each vibrant color on the plate represented more than just culinary mastery. It symbolized their struggles, aspirations, and the deep-rooted fears that had festered since childhood. Would the world appreciate their thoughtful melding of flavors? Or would they dismiss it as mere novelty? The questions twisted in May's gut, tightening and curling like a vine. "Let's trust our instincts," Leon said softly, her hand brushing against her sister's arm. A gesture meant to convey solidarity, but May felt the heaviness linger. Her sister's calm didn't entirely assuage her doubts. Fueled by the initial thrill of creativity, she instinctively picked up her phone, scrolling through previous reviews that had pierced her confidence like shards of glass. The critique of their last dish echoed sharply in her mind. It wasn't just about culinary excellence but validating their own existence as chefs worthy of respect. Each word had been a cut, revealing not just their culinary imperfections, but the flaws they perceived in themselves. What if they don't get it, Leon? What if they just see us as two inexperienced chefs trying to break the mold? May's voice trembled slightly, betraying her composed demeanor. "Then they don't get it," Leon replied firmly. "But we know the story behind these flavors. We know the heart and soul we're pouring into it. That's worth something, isn't it?" Her sister's resilience forced May to pause, reassessing her own dialogue. Perhaps the fear of not being accepted was inadvertently shaping her identity. It was a tether she now wanted to sever. What if their culinary journey was a map through unfamiliar terrain meant to lead not just to acceptance but to true self-discovery? With a newfound focus, May took a deep breath, contemplating their dish. An embodiment of their journey, infused with their father's cherished spices and the zest of unfamiliar tastes. She smiled, imagining it being savored on other palates, far removed from their kitchen. Each layer of flavor wasn't merely a representation of heritage but an invitation for others to explore the nuances of their story. "Let's just plate it and see what happens," she finally said, her tone steadier now. Their shared resolve anchored them amid the uncertainty swirling around them. They needed to strip away the layers of doubt encasing their creativity, to redefine both their cuisine and themselves. As they plated their dish, vibrant splashes of color intertwined with sizzling textures and bold aromas, the kitchen transformed into a sanctuary of creation. The act of arranging the dish morphed into a ritual, one that respected their past while shouting their ambitions into the future. However, the culmination of their efforts beckoned an entirely new struggle. As they prepared to serve, an unexpected thought snuck in like a sly intruder. What about their next dish? What if the next blend was not celebrated but scoffed at, leading them back into the shadows of self-doubt? "May, this is our moment," Leon said, breaking the train of thought. "We can't let fear stop us. Let's embrace it." With a nod, May's thoughts crystallized. They weren't just battling external judgments but also the crippling inertia within themselves to break free. They had to confront the unknown and the specter of self-doubt head-on, not just for the dish but for their evolution. As they stepped away from the counter, hands trembling yet resolute around the plate, May glanced at Leon, her confidence buoyed by a shared purpose. This venture was only the beginning of an inevitable journey towards understanding who they truly were as chefs and women. "Are you ready?" May asked, glancing at their dish, now a vibrant echo of their identities. "We were born ready," Leon replied. And just as they positioned the plate for their first audience, another thought nagged at May, pulling her focus back again. What if their daring pursuit of authenticity led to unexpected consequences, revealing truths about themselves they weren't prepared to face? The weight of the moment gripped her tightly, tinged with uncertainty and adrenaline, as they prepared for the world's reaction to their culinary audacity. The world beyond their kitchen door hummed with anticipation, a tension that almost felt palpable. May sighed, letting the moment hang in the air, heavy with unspoken worries. It was now or never, to step into the arena and face not only the scrutiny of others, but also the shadows lurking within her own mind. "What if they don't feel the story?" she muttered, fingers tracing the edge of the plate. The colors blended expertly, a visual representation of their painstaking labor, but she felt a gnawing discontent, as if it remained just that, a pretty metaphor devoid of meaning. "Then we keep telling it until they do," Leon replied, her tone laced with determination. "We can't expect everyone to understand us right away. This is just the beginning. Just the beginning. The notion echoed in May's head, amplifying her unease. What if each attempt became another testimony to their struggles rather than a celebration of their journey? Would they be condemned to perpetual underestimation? Stepping toward the service area, she braced herself against the sleek countertop. The bustling chaos of the kitchen surged around them, a blend of voices and scents creating a symphony of pressure that only added to her anxiety. Her mind raced with the weight of expectations, both external and internal. Here, in this moment, a pivotal choice awaited her. Rather than let fear dictate her actions, she needed to pivot, harnessing the chaos into something meaningful. "Let's make sure we explain our creation," May stated, grounding herself in a plan. "They need to understand what it took to get here." Leon nodded eagerly, clearly sensing her sister's shift. "Let's share the story of our father's spice blends, how they shaped our identities. Every bit of this dish is a chapter in our lives." As they approached the assembled crowd, May caught the gaze of one of the judges, a well-known culinary critic with a reputation that preceded him. Anxiety bubbled anew. The man's piercing scrutiny was intimidating, and she wondered if he could decipher the depth behind their work. Would he see their struggle or dismiss it as a cultural gimmick? "Stay focused," Leon whispered, nudging her forward. "Own the narrative. This is your moment to articulate who we are." Inhaling sharply, May felt the adrenaline kick in. A rush of determination surged through her veins. Stepping into the luminescent spotlight, she found her voice. "This dish is a dialogue of flavors, rooted in our heritage but looking outward. Each taste represents a part of our story. Our father taught us the importance of balancing tradition and innovation." The crowd listened, but May could still feel eyes assessing, evaluating. She pressed on, invigorated by the purpose behind her words. It wasn't merely about the food, but sharing a part of themselves with those who might never fully understand. The words flowed fervently as she began articulating the emotions tied to each ingredient, the cultural threads intricately woven through their overwhelming fears and triumphs. Midway through the explanation, May felt a shift in the atmosphere. The initial skepticism in the audience began to soften, morphing into interest and perhaps something more, a flicker of understanding. She sensed a thread of connection weaving through the tension, reaching out to engulf both her and Leon. It was an awakening, the moment she realized she wasn't just presenting food. She was confronting her limitations with a narrative that could enthrall those willing to listen. As applause began to break out, a jolt of triumph coursed through her. This was it, her foundation of courage building under the weight of uncertainty. Yet as one of the judges approached them, a note of hesitation lingered, unnerving May once more. She felt vulnerable in this moment of potential acknowledgement, aware that acceptance could also lead to unexpected challenges. "Your dish is intriguing," the critic said, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "But what comes next? How do you plan to push beyond this initial success?" His question hung in the air, buzzing with significance, challenging everything May had just experienced. She turned to Leon, both their futures resting on the tightrope they had carefully begun to walk. With resolve ignited, she understood their upward trajectory was about to unfurl, provided they navigated the balance between comfort and bold exploration. "What if we need to redefine our path continuously?" May pondered aloud, her heart racing as the weight of this new reality settled around them. It was clear they would have to push boundaries, perhaps even venture into uncharted culinary territories where failure awaited, shattering the fragile confidence they had just begun to build. With a shared glance brimming with determination, May caught Leon's mood of fierce commitment. The challenge had ignited a fire within her, a call to evolve further than they had imagined. "Let's embrace the unknown," Leon whispered, her tone resolute. "It's time to delve deeper into what we can truly become." As they stood together, facing a future pulsing with unexplored possibilities, a singular realization struck. Their evolution as chefs had just begun, but what awaited them on that path could unveil more than culinary prowess. It could bring to light aspects of themselves they'd kept hidden for far too long. And in this new embrace of uncertainty, May couldn't shake the feeling that their most profound revelations were yet to come, as they prepared to navigate the consequences of their audacious choices. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for May and Leon. Their initial exposure to the culinary judge had sparked something, an electric sense of possibility. But with each passing moment, the weight of the unasked questions loomed larger. What did it truly mean to push beyond success? The daring essence of exploration tugged at May, like a compass pointing toward an uncertain destination. Back in their kitchen, the space felt both familiar and alien. The aromas of roasting spices mixed with the sense of urgency permeating the air. May was driven not only by a desire for recognition, but by an insatiable need to prove to herself that she could continuously redefine her culinary identity. Every frantic chop of the knife echoed her internal dialogue, questions about courage, innovation, and the very nature of success. "What are we really striving for?" she muttered to Leon one afternoon, the sun pouring in through the window, illuminating their scattered ingredients. "Is it just another dish, or are we looking to create a new legacy?" Leon paused, nodding thoughtfully, as she sifted through some spice blends. "It's more than that, isn't it? It's about our story." A flicker of resolve ignited in May. "Yes, but what sets us apart from the rest?" The uncertainty knotted in May's stomach, self-doubt mingling with ambition. She stared at their latest creation, a fusion of traditional flavors and daring modern elements that was both exciting and intimidating. "How do we ensure that our identity isn't just an embellishment but a fundamental essence of our work?" As the pressure mounted, they began experimenting with the uncharted. Over the next few weeks, every dish they created became a statement, an assertion of their roots melded with their experiences. They infused bold elements from various culinary traditions, stirring in unexpected pairings while keeping their father's spice techniques in the forefront. Yet, each time they plated a new idea, a whisper of hesitation lingered, seeping in through the cracks of their newfound confidence. At one strategic meeting with a local food influencer, they shared their tactics and vision. May found herself discussing not only the dishes, but the philosophies that drove their artistry. "Cooking is like storytelling. It should challenge the palate just as tales challenge the mind," she proposed passionately. "Everyone appreciates a good story," the influencer remarked. But May still sensed a gap between their ambitious visions and how to communicate them. Would their efforts resonate, or was she merely romanticizing their struggle without addressing its core? 2 days later, May stumbled across food blogs that echoed her concerns. Discussions surrounding authenticity versus innovation made her uneasy. She observed numerous chefs struggling to maintain their true selves, while expanding into broader expressions of cuisine. Would she and Leon face the same conundrum? Would they capture the essence of who they are only to lose it in the throes of transformation? Simply put, we can't lose sight of our core amidst our exploration, May said one night, pacing the kitchen with agitation. Leon listened, her silent agreement evident in the tension of her body, reflecting May's own turmoil. As they pressed on with their culinary exploration, each decision began to reveal layers of their own identities. The act of creating was also an act of discovery. May found herself gravitating towards ingredients that reflected her childhood, pairing them with techniques she had learned in culinary school to innovate and break barriers. However, that same voice that had once questioned their worth resurfaced with a vengeance. Every face reflected back at her, those of culture experts and critics, stirred doubts about the authenticity of their dialogue. What if their journey only exposed deeper vulnerabilities? What if they were meant to fail? In the midst of this internal conflict, an unexpected email illuminated the darkness. A well-regarded culinary festival had reached out, intrigued by their innovative approach, inviting them to showcase their latest creations. This was not just chance. It was a beckoning, a true challenge to step toward their next evolution. May felt her heart race with a blend of excitement and fear. Would this stage allow them to redefine their narrative, or would it amplify their insecurities? That familiar tension gripped her, but beneath it whispered the undeniable truth. Every step forward brought with it the possibility of new discovery. Leon caught the gleam in May's eyes and grinned, sensing the turning tide. This is the moment we've been preparing for, she urged. We must take this plunge, May agreed, determination brewing. Not just for ourselves, but to unearth the stories woven within our heritage. With renewed vigor, they began defining their approach, but in doing so, another thought flickered. What sacrifices would they need to make? As they prepared their entries for the festival, the weight of their choices loomed larger than ever. Are we ready to risk everything in pursuit of this vision? May whispered late one night, a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through her veins. Yes, Leon affirmed. They were on the verge of transformation, but sometimes the journey demanded more than just the courage to step forward. It required the audacity to confront what they might lose in the process. The time had come to face not only their creations but the truth of who they were becoming. Would they embrace the daunting shadows or rise above them, armed with the wisdom forged in the kitchen? The next chapter of their culinary odyssey awaited, more daunting yet exhilarating than they could ever anticipate. As the days unfolded, May's determination became a palpable force in their kitchen. Each morning light that seeped through the window ignited her resolve, but it also cast shadows of uncertainty. The invitation to showcase their work hung heavily in the air, a constant reminder of the stakes involved in their culinary journey. She wrestled with her thoughts as she prepped ingredients, the knife rhythmically slicing through vegetables under her skilled hands. What identity were they truly presenting to the world? Was it an authentic expression of self, or merely a permutation of expectations? Each dish had the potential to declare their essence, yet she couldn't silence the nagging inner critic that chastised her for the risks they were contemplating. What if we're not enough? May questioned one afternoon, a fresh batch of herbs between her fingers. Leon, busy blending spices, halted her movements to raise her gaze. This is all about exploration, and exploration means uncertainty, Leon said, steadying her voice. But even she seemed to wrestle with unspoken fears. In pursuit of clarity, May delved deeper into their culinary philosophy. She pondered her father's unwavering commitment to flavor, and how it echoed through her own dishes. The recipes they crafted together were not just meals, they were fragments of their past, interwoven with their present. It was crucial to honor those roots. The thought ignited a sense of urgency within her. Let's meet this challenge head-on, May stated, a fierce spark igniting within her. Leon eyed her curiously, sensing the shift. We can create a menu that reflects our heritage while also innovating it, without losing ourselves in the process. Their hands worked in unison as they brainstormed. Ideas flared with intensity, an exhilarating dance of spices, textures, and colors. However, with each creation came the risk of vulnerability. Would every bold move resonate, or would it expose them to ridicule and doubt? The question swirled like an uncontainable storm, compelling May to find a balance between ambition and authenticity. A contrasting duality brewed, a desire to push boundaries while remaining true to their culinary foundation. Leon's persistent encouragement provided a semblance of comfort, yet deep down, May knew the looming shadows of past failures were deftly waiting to cast their spell. Weeks into their preparations, they began to receive feedback, both encouraging and harsh. One critic highlighted the lack of coherence in their menu, provoking May's insecurities. Do we really stand out, or are we just adding noise? She questioned that night, tossing and turning in bed as anxiety gripped her. Leon's response, while earnest, felt insufficient to quell May's spiraling thoughts. May, we are evolving, that's the point. We've always said that cooking is a living art, Leon insisted as they stood amidst their chaotic kitchen, the weight of expectation vibrating between them. Yes, but what if this evolution alienates our core audience? What if they see us as imposters? May countered, frustration rising. The very reflection of her fears danced through her mind, taunting her with images of disapproval and scorn. Gripping the edge of the countertop, she grappled with her identity as a chef. Did she need to contort herself to fit the mold of success, or could she carve out a unique space? Would the culinary world accept her as she was, blending cultures and inventing flavors instead of merely producing something for immediate acclaim? As the deadline crept closer, May felt the palpable pressure build, an almost overwhelming conjecture of failure creeping into her thoughts. Then, clarity ignited. A shifting perspective that broke the storm inside her. It wasn't just about their innovative menu. It was about the journey and the discovery of themselves in the culinary landscape. With a newfound focus, she turned to Leon, determination glimmering in her eyes. "We won't settle for merely being chefs. We'll showcase our stories, the raw, unfiltered versions of us. Whether they love it or hate it doesn't matter. We'll own our identity." The time had come to risk vulnerability for authenticity. They hadn't just created dishes, they were about to unveil their hearts. As they finalized their menu and polished their concepts, a combination of ambition and fear knitted together in the pit of May's stomach. Yet, it hummed with the thrill of translucence, the belief that they could challenge perceptions while embracing their roots fully. But the unsolved mystery loomed ever closer. Would their radical honesty be their salvation or destruction? The time to showcase their creations approached with an ominous countdown, and as the weight of choice settled over May, one burning thought lingered. Was she truly ready to face the culinary world and all it demanded? With resolve, she looked to Leon. It's time to step into the unknown together. The next step felt colossal, but it was also filled with the whisper of potential. Would they transcend their doubts? Or would the truth of their journey weigh them down? As the day of the culinary festival dawned, May felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety swelling within her. The vibrant colors of her culinary creations, bold fusions of family tradition and personal innovation, stood in stark contrast to the tumultuous doubts that clouded her mind. This was the moment they had prepared for, yet the weight of their father's legacy loomed heavily over their shoulders. Standing in the kitchen, May looked over at Leon, whose calm, focused demeanor offered a stabilizing force amid the chaos. They had come together not just to showcase a refined dish, but to unveil their journey as chefs, as sisters, and as individuals shaped by the experiences that defined them. This was not just about the food, it was about reclaiming their narrative. "Are you ready for this?" Leon asked, her voice steady, yet brimming with excitement. May inhaled deeply, feeling the mix of spices and scents that surrounded her, aromas of oak, citrus, and nostalgia. "I think I am," she replied, the affirmation stronger than she had anticipated. It was a testament to her transformation, from a woman fraught with fears to one who willingly embraced uncertainty to carve her own path. As they arrived at the venue, the atmosphere hummed with energy, the scent of grilled meats and spices wafting through the air. Competitors rushed to finalize their setups, each hopeful for that moment where their creation would be judged. But for May, this was more than competition. It was liberation, a stage to express her culinary philosophy and identity. They stepped forward, vibrant plates in hand, an amalgamation of traditional comfort and modern boldness. With every plating, May could feel the weight of expectation begin to lift, revealing something far more significant, an empowerment forged from vulnerability and resolve. Their first encounter with the critics began with an unexpected pause. A prominent food critic, known for his discerning palate and biting reviews, approached their booth. "What sets this dish apart?" he asked, eyebrows raised, gauging their composure. May straightened her back, grounding herself in purpose. "This dish represents a dialogue between our heritage and our evolution as chefs. We wanted to honor the flavors of our childhood while daring to innovate." The words flowed with a clarity that could only come from a place of authenticity. As she spoke, May observed a flicker of intrigue in the critic's gaze, the unyielding scrutiny melting into something akin to appreciation. "Interesting approach," he mused, taking the first bite. She could hardly breathe, the anticipation palpable as he savored their creation, each moment stretching into eternity. Suddenly, the critic's expression transformed. Curiosity morphed into enjoyment, a genuine smile breaking through the facade of indifference. "You've done something here. It's unexpected yet rooted deeply in flavor. I can taste the love behind it." The flood of validation unleashed a torrent of emotions within May. She had taken the risk and found reward, not just in applause but in the acknowledgement that they had woven their identity into a dish, a reflection of themselves. The timid chef who once sheltered behind self-doubt had evolved into a storyteller, showcasing her narrative through every bite. As the day progressed, May and Leon faced additional judges and critiques, each offering feedback that encouraged them to delve deeper into their culinary art. The playful banter between criticism and commendation invigorated her. May was embracing the very complexity she had once feared. The pinnacle came when they were awarded Best Fusion Dish, acknowledgement that felt both surreal and grounding. Cheers erupted from the small crowd circled around their booth, a tide of recognition washing over them. With the title came a profound realization. This victory wasn't simply about accolades or acclaim. It was representative of a deeper transformation, one of growth, resilience, and embracing vulnerability. May glanced at Leon, and in that mutual smile, she saw the culmination of their hard work, their relentless spirit, and their unwavering sisterhood. "Can you believe it?" Leon exclaimed, joy bubbling in her laughter. "It's more than I ever dreamed," May replied, her heart swelling with pride. They had not just won, they had proven that true identity could flourish amidst bold exploration. Later that evening, as they settled down in the quiet of their kitchen, May reflected on the journey that had brought them here. This experience was a declaration of self-acceptance, a celebration of their past that now paved the way to ideas yet undiscovered. "Next year," she mused, "let's create a whole new dish, something that speaks even more powerfully to who we are becoming." This bold assertion, once cloaked in fear, was now infused with excitement. And in that moment, surrounded by a familiar warmth, May recognized the undeniable truth. This was just the beginning. They had conquered fears not only as chefs, but as individuals, reclaiming narratives that were entirely their own. The journey ahead shimmered with promise as they dared to dream. In cultivating their unique voice in the world of culinary art, they embraced the unfolding potential of their continued transformation. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep powerful tales alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending to engage in our vibrant community. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion. Your support drives the narratives that inspire resilience and transformation.